Hello and welcome to episode 326 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fan's weekly podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and for the first time in a long time, we're getting a little spooky on Retro Encounter, not because it's Halloween, and we did the spooky episode in February this year as well, but because we're here to talk about Castlevania again. In March of 2022, we are celebrating Metroidvania month, that very specific genre of 2D action RPGs or 2D action games with RPG elements. It's kind of hard to define without including at least two series in the definition, but to try and not define the term, but explore one game under that umbrella, I have three fine panelists for you, starting with Zach Wilkerson.
Hello.
Also, Alana Hagues.
Hey.
And thirdly, Cory Tischbein.
Hey there.
Zach, Alana, Cory, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow is a 2003 Game Boy Advance game that was made much more convenient to play in fall of 2021 with the Castlevania Advance Collection coming out on a whole bunch of systems. I have played each of the three Metroidvania games in that collection over the past several months, including Aria of Sorrow, which I finished a week or two ago specifically for this podcast. And I loved this game on the Game Boy Advance when it came out. I think it had already been out a little while. I think I played it in 2004, let's say. And I was really pleasantly surprised at how well it held up. Alana, I know you love Castlevania just as much as I do. What was it like revisiting Aria of Sorrow for the podcast?
Oh, yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, like, I didn't play Aria of Sorrow on the GBA originally. I missed out on the GBA trilogy, in fact, entirely until they got re-released on the Wii U. Rest in peace, Wii U shop the next year. Aria of Sorrow quickly jumped up to be one of my favorite Castlevania games, and this is the third time I've played it. And it's held up in every way. Like, I remembered a lot more than I thought I did. And the map was really nicely laid out, and I just kind of remembered the flow of it. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with Metroidvanias anyway, because I'm into them outside of the RPG adjacent ones anyway. But yeah, I was so glad this collection came out, because it'd been rumored for ages and ages and ages, and now we know that the Wii U eShop's going. It's good that we can actually access these games. Yeah, I was really happy to play it again. I've been meaning to replay it for a while, so this was a good excuse.
Konami has not been great about making new games in their most celebrated series, but have done pretty well with things like arcade collections. I should say there are three collections of Castlevania games. First, the Requiem collection that has Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood on it. Then the Classics collection has a bunch of the older strictly action Castlevania games. And now this Advanced collection, which is the three Game Boy Advance games, plus the Super Nintendo version of Dracula X / Rondo of Blood. If that's, I don't know, like 20 out of the 25 Castlevania games you want, something like that.
Something.
Not that hard to go back and play a bunch of old Castlevania games, and this Advanced collection was, I think, such an excellent value. It was a complete no-brainer for me to get it on the Switch the day it released. But Zach, you probably have not played quite as much Castlevania as Alana or I, but how has Aria of Sorrow treated you?
Well, I have not played nearly as much as either of you. In fact, this is only my second Castlevania Metroidvania game. And in fact, I've been loudly beating a drum since I played Symphony of the Night 2 years ago. Like, Mike, can we please play Aria of Sorrow? Mike,
that is true. I have it has been on the ideas board for at least 2 years, maybe longer. and we've almost made it the game of the month a couple times. We decided to, just make an executive decision, and throw this Metroidvania month and make Aria of Sorrow part of it. But Zach, please continue.
And I was very excited to finally get the opportunity to play it. I've been wanting to play more of these, and Aria of Sorrow didn't disappoint. I loved Symphony of the Night a lot. I'm not sure that I would put it quite on the same level in all categories, but there's some ways in which I thought it outstripped it. And I just I picked it up just on a whim a month ago. I was like, I'll pick it up just because I know we're going to be playing it soon. And then 2 days later, I was done with 100% map completion because I thought it was amazing. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it.
I did not get 100% map or 100% souls this time around, but I definitely got my money's worth out of it. It took, my playthrough was right around 5.5 or 6 hours.
I mean, I'm not a psychopath, so I didn't do 100% souls because only
who would do that, right?
Do that, but yeah.
I'm saying nothing.
I did a tiny bit of grinding just to get the Soul Eater ring, there was other stuff I wanted to play, so I moved on quickly after finishing Aria of Sorrow. But Zach, there is one person on this panel with even less Castlevania experience than you. Cory, correct me if I'm wrong. This was your first Castlevania game.
That is totally correct. Yeah.
So how
Before
did you find
playing,
it?
it basically showed me that Metroidvanias and Castlevania more specifically are definitely to my liking. I got a kick out of the nonlinear progression. The tactical soul system, I really didn't even know this game featured that. I had never seen something like that before, but it really kept the gameplay fresh. And exploring the castle was so much fun that it was tough to stop doing. So I would echo everything Zach and Alana said.
Awesome. Well, okay, this is going to be a very appreciative, celebratory toned episode because we all obviously love this game. But let's get into the game part of the game a little bit. Give me a short time to explain the story. You're a teenage boy named Soma Cruz. You have a female friend, Mina Hakuba, and at a Japanese shrine at a solar eclipse, you're mysteriously teleported to a castle. And in that castle, you meet a man named Arikado who explains to Soma that he has powers to control the souls of monsters. Then you meet Yoko, who's one of Arikado's allies, a man named Hammer, who's a friendly military man that sells you weapons, a mysterious stranger named Graham, who is working against Yoko and Arikado, and an even more mysterious stranger named Jay, who is amnesiac but knows that he has something to do in the castle. And guess what? That 30-second explanation is about 90% of the game's story. It's your Soma is exploring the castle at the player's own pace, occasionally meeting one of these characters who are saying, "Well, keep going, Soma. I have stuff to do somewhere else," and then they leave, and then you continue, and until the very end when the drama ramps up a little bit. But this game has some story, some breadcrumbs, but really it's explaining in the first 30 seconds that Soma can defeat monsters and then use their powers, and then just exploring as much of the castle and getting as many monster souls as you can. And that soul is that soul collection and equipping system is called the tactical soul system, as Cory mentioned before. And we were very obviously making fun of her earlier for it, but Alana, you got every soul in the game this time around. Tell us what that grind was like, and maybe, I don't know, one or two favorite souls you had to equip to get more souls.
Yeah, so I mean, like, even when you do 100% of Aria of Sorrow, it's still not going to take you much more than like 10 or 11 hours. I was on 10 and a half hours, but the Advanced Collection has a few nifty tricks like rewind and save states, so I definitely abused that a little bit where possible. It can be a real grind sometimes, and like, even, because I think like an average Symphony of the Night playthrough would probably take me like 8 or 9 hours, but and an average Aria would probably take me about 5 or 6, like probably you and Zach did, Mike. But I definitely found a couple very difficult. There are a couple of very notorious ones, like the Poison Worm. The Red Minotaur was the last one I got, which is like one of the end game enemies, which is also incidentally probably one of the best bullet souls, which is the red souls, which are all your attacking souls.
Is that the gigantic axe that spins in a circle?
It sure is, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one, right? But I did not get it this time around.
Yeah, it's super good, but it's really rare. So yeah, it can get really frustrating, especially when you've got like enemies. And I think this is like really cool anyway about the game, is that like there are some enemies that only appear in like 1 or 2 rooms. Like, you've got the Tsuchinoko, which only appears in that one room down in the oh god, it's in the dance hall quarters, isn't it?
It's in the basement of the dance hall. Sometimes it'll appear and sometimes it'll run away before you can even reach it, and then it'll run away anyway after you strike it 2 or 3 times. So you can't reliably farm it until a little bit later in the game. But once you get that soul and equip it, it gives you a 20% discount at Hammer's
something
shop.
Like that.
Yeah. If you want to get the most expensive stuff in the shop, you want the Tsuchinoko soul, and the Tsuchinoko is ultra specific, ultra rare, but there's how many of these? 108, 110 to collect?
112, 110 sounds about right, yeah, because some bosses don't have them. You do get guaranteed drops from every boss except the first 3, which have the fun, like, Symphony of the Night callback, where the first couple of bosses become enemies later on, like the Manticore, the Skeleton, and what's the third boss? It's one of the golems, isn't it? It's the Knight.
The giant sword, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, some of them can be a bit of a grind. early on, I got very lucky and got the Valkyrie Soul, which can be a little bit tricky to get. So it's like a big awkward up slash, quite a long range as well. So that did me really well for a while. But I think one of my favorite souls, which I got relatively soon after that, is the Disc Armor Soul.
Oh
Which
yeah, and
it's so
you can
good.
get multi hits having it sort of like buzz on the enemy.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, so it's like a little it's like a big yo-yo that you like throw outwards and then like it comes back to you. So it's like 2 or 3 hits and it's really quick and pretty cheap as well. So yeah, I got that pretty uneventfully, so I was pretty glad to get that. I'm trying to think of other ones. Black Panther's one of the ones you get through story progression, but that means you can like run. Like it costs like 2 MP a second, but by the time you're at that point, you can go through candlesticks and just replenish your MP as you go. So
And you can like especially if you like because you'll have like double jumps and a few other tricks by then. You can really blaze through the castle once you have the Black Panther soul.
yeah, it helps when you're doing the soul grind. Also, Alistair is a really good support soul. It's one of the very last enemies you encounter, but it summons a familiar, which is a giant sword. So it's just extra damage, really.
Yeah, that's a callback to Symphony of the Night that I enjoy because the
It
sword familiar,
is.
the sword familiar in Symphony is amazing.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, the imp's pretty good as well, but he only good for like pressing that little button, isn't he? In Symphony.
Yeah, for damage, it's the sword and then everything else, but you do need the imp to get to like one part of the castle.
Yeah, definitely. And then like in terms of yellow souls, I forget what all of these are actually called. It's really one of the boss ones, the headhunter. Especially if you're doing 100% souls, which boosts like every single stat but luck by like dependent on how many souls you've got. So by the time for the record, like I think the average level to beat this game on is somewhere between like 30 and 45. I was level 78 when I beat this game, so I was definitely overpowered. I went up 10 levels alone trying to get the red minotaur. So that's why I ended up being as overpowered as I was. But yeah, like we've got 100% souls. You put that on, you put all of Dracula's gear on, and then you're ready to go. Really,
going through the game, I got incredibly lucky and went through the underground waterway way too early, like without either of the souls that let you walk or go through water. But that meant I was somehow able to get a Triton soul very early, which gives you strength plus 16 as a yellow soul. So I had that equipped almost the entire game until I had enough souls to make the headhunter worth it. And that we should mention the headhunter boss. It's a boss right around the middle of the game. It's a headless warrior that has 3 heads mounted on the wall of the room, and one by one he puts on a new head to gain different attacks and different powers. And it's as a boss concept, that's pretty good. Like Koji Igarashi was having a lot of fun giving us weird bosses to deal with in this game. But it has the standards like the Grim Reaper and Legion and I'm trying to think of
it's a pretty
other
gross
cool ones.
depiction of Legion as well. Like definitely like
so gross.
Yeah. Balor is probably the most famous one just because of the way it uses like the background. Because Balor is like right in the back and you have to like I want to say it's the hardest boss, probably the hardest boss up there with Death. Just because it does so much damage, but it's pretty easy if you get to it, especially
after going through those side rooms of the arena, I thought Ballora was a joke because those rooms were a nightmare.
Yeah, I thought that Balor was not as hard as the route to get to Balor, but I think Balor is also amusing because right when you go into his room, a giant bat appears after coalescing from multiple bats, and Castlevania veterans will be like, "Oh, the giant bat is the first boss in Castlevania 1. What a cool reference!" And then a giant hand from the background just snaps the bat into just a blood splatter. And no, you're fighting a menacing face with 2 hands. I don't know, like the final boss of Mega Man X1 or something. But it's a cool entrance and a cool setup. That just the boss fights are pretty creative in this game. And after you beat Balor, you get Balor's soul, and then one room over you get the giant bat soul that was freshly created for you minutes earlier, I presume. But it's and also you also get an ability to turn into a bat in Symphony of the Night. But Soma's bat transformation is so much faster and more agile than Alucard's. So much more.
I miss the noise though. Like I can't even replicate it. It's not even worth trying. But you know what I mean?
Come
Like it's like
on,
a
do
twinkle. I can't make a twinkle noise. I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's like a squeaky noise and occasionally a flappy noise, and
Oh
then a
yeah, and
different
a little chirp.
yeah, and
Bats
then
do not chirp.
yeah, they don't quite. But let's go back into how that is illustrative of moving through a Metroidvania space in general, because Metroidvania games, again, the portmanteau comes from Metroid, which has been doing this since the 80s, and Castlevania, which has been doing this since Symphony of the Night in 97, 98, where you're exploring a large 2D space, usually a castle in Castlevania, usually a planet or spaceship in Metroid, where your progress is gated by abilities or specific keys, where you like parts of the space will be obviously inaccessible, but once you have an ability that lets you get through there, or a specific kind of key, or the ability to open a certain kind of door, you're able to get through that. So you're exploring through an area, like filling in more of a map as you go. So it's non-linear, as we've mentioned multiple times. You're not it's not always obvious where to go, where you need to go next. You have to sort of check your map, find out, look for places that where you were blocked before, or you remember a certain kind of obstacle before, and just keep thoroughly exploring until you can get to more and more of the castle. And we mentioned a couple things, like a double jump is an ability you get pretty early. Near the end of the game, after that Belor boss fight, you get the ability to turn into a bat that lets you fly around areas that were definitely inaccessible before. You eventually get a super jump. There's one soul that lets you walk on the surface of water, and another soul that lets you sink in water and explore it without the need for air. Just a lot of things like that are usually relics or equipment in other Castlevania games that do the nonlinear exploration thing. But in Aria of Sorrow, it's all souls, because this game is sometimes it's got to catch them all with all the different souls that you want and filling in that monster list. Cory, you mentioned having fun with the tactical soul system. Was there any particular souls that you enjoyed or were reliable for you for parts of the run?
After I beat Legion, which I know is toward the end of the game, I basically didn't stop using his soul. It shoots like 3 lasers that kills just about anything in like 1 or 2 hits. I kind of over relied on that, even though the MP cost was pretty high.
Are
Um,
those light elemental? Because there is so much stuff weak against light elemental in this game.
I think so. The game didn't really do a great job of explaining the elemental system, so I'm not
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, there are elements, like there's definitely fire, ice, lightning, dark, and light. And light is so versatile that I think like half of the bosses are weak against it, and only one boss is strong against it.
Yeah.
So if you have a good light elemental thing going, then that'll carry you a long way. The best sword in the game is light elemental, which helps. Legion's a funny one. I'm trying to remember what I used the most during this game. I used the I think it was a Ripper skeleton soul a lot, because it's just a knife, but if the knife hits something, it deals continuous damage 4 or 5 times into them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I use that quite a bit too. Is that the butcher soul or something else?
I
Maybe.
think the Butcher Soul is just a regular knife, and then the Ripper skeleton is a stabby knife, I think. But there's a lot of souls in this game, and I definitely didn't get to the halfway point. Let's go back to the story a little bit. Soma definitely knows that it's unusual that he has power over souls, and Arikado and Yoko hint to him that it is important, but he should still be himself, still just try to get to the end of the castle and protect his girlfriend Mina. And if you go back to the entrance area, Mina can give you a hint on where the next place to go is, and Hammer can sell you equipment. Sometimes some of Hammer's stuff is pretty good, and you do collect gold in this game frequently. Whose only real use is Hammer's shop. But for the most part, I think it's clearly communicated what every new ability allows you to do. And even if you're a Castlevania neophyte like Cory, just going through to areas that were blocked off previously is enough to at least get you where you need to go. Cory, do you have any major issues finding the next place or navigating the castle?
No, not navigating the castle. I mean, I did just what you said. I basically looked at my map and I was like, oh, I haven't been this way before. And that typically got me to the next area. Um, I did have some major issues in the form of a certain boss that maybe we'll get to, but not with navigation.
Yeah, sometimes I thought that if I was a little underleveled or surprised, I was much more likely to die like to spikes or just getting to the next enemy than a boss fight, with one notable exception. Because like Zach was mentioning, that how the special rooms in the arena can get pretty hairy in difficulty. uh,
Yeah.
I died at least once in the underground waterway area where there's a demon and a bunch of plants all at once that messed
Oh,
with
in the
me.
cemetery area before Legion.
No, no, no. A little bit before the cemetery, in the sort of a central area of the
Yeah.
waterway, there's one big demon that took me by surprise. I think I was
Um,
inches away from a save point as well, because part of the struggle of these games is, okay, I'm in a new area, I need to find the next save point, and but until then, I'm at 30% health and a little worried. But like compared to other Castlevania games, I thought that Aria of Sorrow is pretty sensibly organized. I never felt like I was totally helpless or lost. But the first time I died in the game, which I think was against the boss that Cory alluded to, was death in the clock tower.
yep. Same here.
Yeah, I was dealing okay damage, but Death was dealing patently absurd amounts of damage to me. I think in his second form, I would die in 2 hits. So like what I ended up doing was teleporting back to the beginning, buying some better armor from Hammer, and then checking every wall in the clock tower to see if there was something I missed. Turns out there's a holy sword that Death is definitely weak against, like a few rooms right before him. So with some better armor, maybe 2 extra levels, and that sword, I was able to handle Death. But not being totally ready for the Grim Reaper, I died real hard against him a couple times. It's the big difficulty spike of the game, I think.
Yeah, it's where I learned the value of the rewind mechanic. Because I just kept going back and back and back. I was like, no, I'm not going to accept this hit this early into the fight. And it may have taken me like 40 minutes, to beat him, but I got through it that way.
Did you have the Mistletoe or the Holy Sword that he's weak against?
No, I wish I did.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
had some.
either.
It that helped me a lot. It's in the clock tower a couple rooms before him.
Yeah, I went back to get it later on, but I didn't have it for that fight, and I just rewound it a few times because I was like, it's not just that Death does a lot of damage. I think some of his attacks are genuinely a little bit fiddly to dodge. Like sometimes the scythe hitboxes are really
Yeah.
strange. Like you can get nicked by it and you won't take damage one time, and then another time it's a different part of the scythe, and it's like, oh, I'm going to take 200 damage, am I? All right.
Yeah.
And all the tiny sickles floating around the air aren't always easy to dodge. Sometimes if you
Mhm.
feel like you're playing Galaga or something, navigating all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I found that like ducking worked like in the
Yes.
most of the time, but yeah, it was definitely a struggle.
Yeah, I in his second form, because again, for a while, Death is incorporeal, and it's just a scythe moving around slowly with tiny sickles scattered around all the time. But then in the second half of the fight, Death appears in person, wielding a giant double-bladed scythe, going around very quickly, dealing a lot of damage. His movements are more linear, and you can slide under him a lot of the time. But again, he was strong enough to kill me in 2 or 3 hits in that second form. So it is a big difficulty spike. It's helped if you can find the Mistletoe sword in the clock tower before him. But the soul he gives you, I ended up using a lot of in the game. It's a one of the it's not a, what do you call the souls that are activated with the R button?
I don't remember, but
It's not I think the yellow ones are passive, the red ones are bullet, but what are the blue ones?
Guardian, maybe?
Guardian Soul sounds right,
Sure.
actually. Yeah.
Let's say Guardian Soul. A couple episodes ago, on the on one of the Knights of the Old Republic episodes, I forgot the word Guardian and kept saying Jedi Knight instead. So these aren't these aren't Jedi Knight souls. These are Guardian souls. I actually use the Death Guardian Soul a lot because just having little sickles flying around you would hit bosses or faraway enemies more often than you'd think. So it was
Yeah.
just like things were just dying around me before they even got close to me with that soul on. If you can spare the mana for it, I think Death's Soul is underrated. I feel
It's what I had to use to get through a couple of rooms in the arena. So yeah, which was to me the difficulty spike in this game.
I used
So,
it for the final boss, and it was great because the final boss has a lot of different targets
Yeah.
around the room where they are.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good one. I use it more in Dawn, which is one of the only direct sequels in this series, because you get the same soul from the same boss. Spoiler. But yeah, it's super good in that. I want to bring it back to like navigation really quickly because
Oh, please.
one of the things that like it's not necessarily a struggle, and this was improved. It's either improved in Dawn or later on in other Castlevania, Metroidvania games that use like a similar sort of system to the Tactical Souls system. But you can only have one set of souls attached each time. So every time you go to the underground cemetery area or the forbidden area or like any of the underwater areas, you have to go into the menu, put on the enchanted soul that lets you walk underwater again, take it off again when you leave the area, and like it's just kind of a little bit fiddly. So like that's the only real annoyance that I've ever really had with this game, because you can't have more than like 3 soul sets, whereas I think in Dawn of Sorrow I think you're allowed to swap between like 2 different sets. You certainly can in something like Time Spinner, which is slightly different, but because they're all attacking souls in that. But yeah, or orbs I should say. But
Yeah, like being able to switch loadouts with one button tap is really useful in more recent Metroidvania games. And like jumping into the menu just to get a specific thing for navigating. That feels like playing Game Boy Link's Awakening a little bit,
yeah.
which is a game a decade older than Aria of Sorrow, and that is an annoyance that's mitigated somewhat in later games. But because I knew I was playing a Game Boy Advance game, I really didn't hate it. Like,
Oh no.
it was annoying, but it's like, oh yeah, this is a Game Boy Advance game, isn't it? They only give you 6 buttons to work with, and 2 of them are start and select.
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, I just thought that those both those abilities, especially the one that allowed you to go underwater, just felt less satisfying. I guess was part of it for me. Like switching back and forth was annoying, but like compare that to like double jumping or the flying bat, and they were just like more fun to play with. And like so, to me, the fact that I had to flip back and forth, and also try to navigate the water and like consistently have to flip back and forth, like it was part of the game design. They wanted you to flip back and forth. I thought was frustrating.
Yeah, you'd have to like sacrifice a strength boost, and there are some enemies in the underwater area that are a bit of a pain. Like, oh my god, what's the skeleton with like the snakes that comes out of its eyes?
I remember that. Is it Loa? No, no.
No,
That's the Persona or SMT monster that looks like that. My mistake.
it's called Maneater.
Maneater. Okay. Now, what's the perfect Hall and Notes joke to tell for that situation? I got nothing. By the time you get to places like the cemetery or the forbidden area, you are sort of seeing the end of the story. There's one grisly scene right in front of the arena where you see Graham stab Yoko in the abdomen, and Graham, who confronted you earlier, furious that you seem to have this monster control power that he craved, leaves in a hurry, and Yoko and Arikado comes to help Yoko, and they both tell you to meet Graham in the throne room at the top of the tower. I think they mentioned that is Graham like a cult leader or some kind of like fake or fallen clergy, because he mentions that he was born on 1999, the day that Dracula died in this part of the storyline, and he believes himself to be a reincarnation of Dracula and the true master of the castle, and he thinks that Soma might be a threat to his claim if he's able to control the monsters of the castle. So Graham goes from like a pleasant introduction, then an obvious creep in his second meeting, then him attacking Yoko in your third meeting. And we should mention a little bit. Yoko's last name is Belnades, which implies that she's a descendant of Sifa Belnades from Castlevania 3. And Castlevania 3, which similar to the Castlevania animated series, is a Belmont teaming up with the son of Dracula, teaming up with a member of the Belnades family of mages. Maybe this is foreshadowing a little bit, and also they turned that into a very, very cool mode in Dawn of Sorrow.
So good.
That is maybe that's almost as fun as the regular way of playing Dawn of Sorrow when you unlock that special mode.
It's a good challenge. It's a really good challenge, yeah.
And all 3 of them animate really well in that too. But that's a little bit to the side. Near the end of the conflict, you fight Graham at the top of the castle, and also this is a portion of the game where Jay reveals his true identity to you. His amnesia gone. He reveals his name is Julius Belmont. He is the person that defeated Dracula in 1999. And where you are now, what year is this? Is this 2035?
2035, yeah.
20,
it's in 13 years.
So yeah, it's almost time for Dracula's castle to rise out of the lunar eclipse, out of the solar eclipse.
In the solar, don't go to Japan on holiday in 2035. Don't go near the Hakuba Shrine, if it exists.
Especially on
Exactly,
a solar eclipse.
but yeah, Jay reveals that he is Julius Belmont, and he has suspicions of what's going on here, but he lets you go and take on Graham. And here's the part where the story diverges, and you can get one of a couple different endings. There are 3 books hidden in the castle. Each one basically a suggestion to equip a certain soul. And I believe they are the Fire Demon Bullet Soul, the Giant Bat Guardian Soul, and the Succubus Enchanted Soul. And each book is like a hint to equip those 3. And those 3 are basically Dracula powers, because in Dracula's traditional boss battles all the way back to the NES days, he can toss out 3 fireballs like the Flame Demon, and of course in all kinds of vampire fiction, Dracula can turn into a bat and heal himself from the blood of his targets. So if you fight Graham, who has powers similar to Dracula for part of his fight, with those souls equipped, then after you defeat him, the story continues, and you can get the best ending. But if you defeat Graham without those 3 souls equipped, Soma becomes consumed by the power of Dracula, and the ending scene is Julius walking in about to kill him with a classic tossed wine glass, just like Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, it's very cool. So if you've got the 3 souls and don't equip them, you do get a slightly different ending where Soma can leave the castle.
Yes.
Yeah, so you don't have to. You have to have them. Oh god, what am I trying to say here? So you have to equip them to get the best ending. But if you've got them and you kill Graham, then you get a slightly different ending. And if you don't have one of them, or you don't have all 3 of them, then you get that bad ending. And if you die, you also get an ending. So there's 4 different endings here, or 5.
I remember from many years ago, if you die against the final boss, you get a version of that bad ending as well.
Yes, that's right. So there's technically 6 endings here, which was quite a lot.
Yeah, with some repeated content. I didn't know that there was an option to just leave the castle.
Yeah, that's
without
what
getting
I
the
got.
good ending.
That's the first one I
interesting.
got. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I didn't have all 3 souls at that point, so I'm not sure.
Ooh.
I think
I
that might
definitely
just
didn't
be
have all
like
3.
the normal, because I know I didn't have the Succubus soul yet. Like I knew I needed to go back and grab it, so I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Well, regardless, there are a couple endings, but if you do have all 3 of those souls equipped from the hint books and defeat Graham with all 3, then basically all of the Dracula power or whatever from Graham enters Soma's body at once, and he realizes that not Graham, but you, Soma, are the incarnation of Dracula, and your ability to control the monsters of the castle is Soma inheriting the powers of Dracula. And then you're confronted by Arikado again, who it's should be very clear is
They literally accidentally call him Alucard early in the game.
I probably did, yeah.
They do.
But or someone does. Maybe Yoko mentions it. But Arikado is Alucard, the main character of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and one of the main characters of Castlevania 3 way back in the 80s. And he's clearly working as some kind of special agent, guiding the reincarnation of Dracula, so it happens as harmlessly as possible. Basically, I think he wants Soma to inherit Dracula's powers, so Soma can maybe use them for good, or at least prevent Dracula from resurrecting properly again. But Arikado tells Soma, yes, you have the powers of Dracula, but you're a strong, tough kid with a lot of willpower. You can if you can eliminate the chaos at the center of this castle, the powers won't totally consume you, and you'll be able to have Dracula's powers while still being Soma Cruz. So that leads you to finding a secret part of the castle, where you travel to, I think it's called the Chaos Dimension, or maybe just Chaos.
Chaos Realm. Chaotic
Chaos
Realm.
That's it.
Sorry.
Right. Chaotic Realm. It sounds about right. There's I don't know. There's so many Chaos Dimension realm things in fiction that I'm definitely conflating 8 of them right now. But going to there, you have to go navigate through a twisty map that recreates different settings and scenery from elsewhere in the castle, and then has you defeat some vague Final Fantasy ass boss with eyes and tentacles and floating things.
Chaos itself, yeah.
Chaos itself, and which is a different Final Fantasy boss. The large demons in the castle do a little bit resemble Big Purple Chaos from FF1.
Well, if you want
A
some,
little bit.
if you want some more Final Fantasy parallels,
Hit me.
like you've got the 4 demon enemies, haven't you? Like Kegnatso. Well, they're not all called right. They're not all
No.
the localization in this game is a little
Yeah.
choppy.
The dialogue's a little stilted, and some of the enemy names are obviously incorrect. The one you're referring to is Rubicante, because you have the 4 torturer demons from Dante's Inferno and those demon names were used for the 4 fiends in Final Fantasy IV. Scarmiglione, Cagnazzo, Rubicante, and Barbaricia. But for Rubicante in this game, they translate it as Lubicant, and you are lying to me if you don't look at that and think lubricant.
Yeah, no, I used to think it was that when I first played it, but also Skullmillion's in it as well because they call it Skull Million.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't notice
Yeah,
that.
they
But
do.
the other one is
God.
this isn't even a Final Fantasy parallel at this point. Curly should be Kali, the warrior demon in
Oh,
Hindu
Kali.
mythology.
Yeah.
Kali, yeah.
Yeah.
Curly is Kali.
Oh, geez. Yeah, Kali was one of my mains when I beat Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne last year.
Yeah.
I had Kali in the final boss. I should have realized that because Kali is a multi-armed demon, just like the very small Curly in Aria of Sorrow. So yeah, this is not a great localization. Like localization in 2003 is not what it is today. But also, I mean, some of the dialogue is a little rough going through it.
Oh
It's like,
God, yeah.
it's like, maybe this isn't out of place in an NES Castlevania or Ninja Gaiden game. but back then, like, bad localizations were a bit more charming.
Oh yeah, I just think it's really funny, basically.
But one part of the game that I think has aged quite beautifully are the visual designs of the characters and the soundtrack. Because you have the same 2 women doing those roles as Symphony of the Night. Ayumi Kojima, no relation to Metal Gear Solid Kojima, doing the gothic style artwork, and Michiru Yamane doing the soundtrack. Excellent work on both fronts here. I think the main characters and key art look great in this game, and the soundtrack has a couple of real fun tunes in it. I love the Clock Tower music.
Oh,
It's
so good.
It's a really good Castlevania Clock Tower.
It's a difficult one, but
a lot of Castlevania clock towers are full of spikes and turning gears and Medusa heads. So that part is just like clock towers of the past. But this version of the clock tower theme that starts out with sort of quieter piano and then getting much more energetic, it's just a really good version of it. It's I almost wish that the sound chip on the GBA was better, so Yamane would have a little bit more technology to play with. But I can't argue with the end result. There's a lot of good sound work in this game, and also the enemy screams upon dying are great. The limited voice work that characters have. It's a little bit like Skies of Arcadia, where like there isn't a lot of fully voice dialogue, but there might be like one shouted out thing or one comment accompanying dialogue. But it's like for Game Boy Advance technology, I think the sound work is really good.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty much. I don't really have anything to add to that. Yeah, why is it like the arena areas always get like really funky music? Like I don't really get this like Castlevania tradition of doing that, but yeah, I guess I'm down for it, I suppose, because the arena area here is like, and they're always like really difficult as well. So you just get like this like really upbeat music, and then you're just like, oh, they're like skull millions.
Yeah, it's full of skull millions and beam skeletons.
Ugh.
And I think there's minotaurs and big armor knights in it as well.
Yeah, there's a bit of everything. You've got that was another good soul actually. The mantle killer, like the clock that swaps HP and MP. That's another good one.
And
that was helpful.
That's the only way to kill an iron golem that had that because I think they have one MP.
It's the most convenient way of killing them.
All right, well, yeah, every hit does one damage to it, and it has like thousands of HP, but only one MP. And there's a lot of really specific weird souls in this game. Like, what's the flying fish that zooms by in an instant?
It's the skyfish, yeah.
Skyfish, that's it. And you can really only reasonably kill it if you have the time slowing down soul from the Chronomage bunny rabbit, and you can't touch the Chronomage bunny rabbit until you have the Galamoth soul, which is from an optional boss. I think is that from Legion, from the graveyard area.
I can't remember where you get the Galamoth soul. Yeah, I can't remember where you get the Galamoth soul from, but the optional boss is from Symphony of the Night, isn't it? Galamoth.
Yeah, well, no, it's the optional boss from Symphony of the Night, which is the final boss of Kid Dracula for the Famicom. the space alien that Baby Alucard fights in that weird. I think it's a Game Boy game.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they took the weird space alien from a Game Boy Castlevania spin-off, made it the super boss in Symphony of the Night, and then made its soul available to stop time, or to prevent to prevent messing with the timeline in Aria of Sorrow. Igarashi loves making deep cut references. He loves it. You can see his weird sense of humor and corners of his brain in all over this game, and I love it. Like, I had so much fun playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night when that came out, and was that 2018 or 2019?
2019, yeah.
Yeah, and like this was a kind of game that I really missed. So playing that in 2019, replaying Symphony of the Night a couple of years ago for the podcast. Alana, you and I did a one-off episode on it a while back, and replaying these 3 advanced games over the past couple months was a complete blast for me. But so Zach, you eventually got to the good ending and everything, and got to 100% map, but not 100% souls. Like, what's your plan for other Castlevania games? Like, do you want to seek more out, or do you think you're just maybe okay for now? Because I don't know, this made me want to go back and play through my DS collection.
Oh, I mean, I definitely want to play others. I mean, like, I from what my understanding is, like, the 2 other ones that are included in the GBA collection are, one is not that good and one is fine. I'd say the 2 that I really want to play are Dawn of Sorrow and Order of Ecclesia, but getting my hands on either of them is somewhere in the range of, no, I'm not spending that much money.
If you're really nice, I might have copies of them. One
I'll
of
think
them, at
about it.
least.
If you want to also borrow them from someone who's a shorter geographical journey away, I might be of service as well.
Yeah, I mean, I want to play both of them, although I've heard that there's some weird jank in Dawn of Sorrow with drawing
an entire
something.
mechanic.
Oh yeah, geez. Oh, the touchscreen stuff in Dawn of Sorrow, drawing glyphs to cast big spells. Oh damn.
Yeah, I can't draw a stick figure effectively, so that concerns me. But
maybe don't sign up for any Okami episodes of Retro Encounter. Then. Just saying it.
No. I played enough Okami to know better. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed them. But I mean, I haven't played. This is probably like still less than 10 Metroidvanias that I've played, and every time I play one that is good, it makes me want to play more of them.
And Cory, I want to present you the same question. Like, how excited or interested does playing Aria make you in other games of the genre? Because there will be more discussions on the games of this genre this month.
Yeah, I think pretty interested. Definitely playing Super Metroid for the next episode of Retro, or maybe the one after.
Sweet.
So that's happening. And so I'll definitely get more Metroidvania exposure. Kind of like Zach, I haven't played many of these, and every time I do and I like it, I'm like, what have I been doing? Like, why am I not playing all these games? So I think for me, Symphony of the Night is probably next, because it's, I think, the most accessible. I think I can get it on Xbox.
You can get it on Xbox or PlayStation Store from the Castlevania Requiem collection. And I think if you want to get real fancy, maybe, I don't know if you can add money to it anymore. The old PSN store on PS3 or Vita, you can get the PlayStation 1 version emulated there.
You still can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So there's a couple ways to play Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, I think that's my next step. I also do want to try the DS games. I've heard they kind of take after this one, but I don't have a way of accessing them. And I also can't draw a stick figure or even like a circle. So that's pretty foreboding for me.
Yeah, you got to draw fast as well.
Yeah, you have to draw circles and crosses at least, things of that nature, and sometimes quickly. Again, I don't think any of it is as bad as the raft segment in Okami, where you have to draw tiny loops on the corners of your raft to draw vines to the shores to stop the raft. It's like,
that was where I stopped playing that game. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have beaten Okami, but that section still gave me a lot of problems, and it didn't help that I was playing it on, I think, PS3 instead of a proper stylus. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people were big fans of this kind of genre in the 90s and 2000s, or even further going back to Metroid games in the 80s, to which point that it felt like there was just when the indie boom of video games really happened in the late 2000s through the 2010s, with services like Xbox Live Arcade and Steam exploding and PSN expanding. Like, there was a wave of indie Metroidvanias the past 10 to 15 years. and a lot of them are great. Like Alana, you and I have had long conversations about how wonderful Time Spinner is.
Many people, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm on a waiting list for a Kickstarter I backed in 2016 about an indie Metroidvania that's allegedly still getting made.
Oh yeah, I know what one you are.
Yeah,
Mean, yeah.
you probably do. There are a lot of games like this because of how this very specific weird genre resonates with people. And so there's going to be plenty to discuss later this month. We're playing an indie Metroidvania called Salt and Sanctuary. That also has some Soulsborne DNA in there at the end of the month. But before we go into our final thoughts, I want to. I have two more things to ask about. First of all, like, is this really the end of Castlevania? Like, this collection in late 2021 was great, but like, will Konami get off their ass and just let another studio make a Castlevania game, or are we doomed to arcade collections and remakes?
I mean, I think that it's possible eventually, but Konami has shown no interest in letting go of their properties, unfortunately, for this and also other properties that I like even more.
Could that possibly be?
I have no idea. They won't even re-release those games. I mean, come on. But yeah, I think that probably at best we're looking at another decade before they let those go, and at that point, will the brand really be worth much? I don't know. So,
Alana.
Yeah, I must be honest. I feel like even the Bloodstain Ritual of the Night, which is essentially like Castlevania, Metroidvania 12 or something, like I kind of feel like the indie space has boomed so much in the genre that they've done so many other different things, and I feel like Castlevania could like pull from it. You know, like Metroid Dread came out like 4 months ago, and we hadn't had a pure Metroid game brand new, ignoring the Metroid 2 remake, for like what 19 years was it between Fusion and Dread, and 17 years or something like that. And they managed to like do that and make it all really fresh and wonderful. So it might happen. But to be honest with you, like I just feel like there's enough out there that I'd love a new Castlevania game. Of course I would. It's one of my favorite series. But like, Konami would rather make NFTs out of them, basically. So,
Oh, geez. No, they did announce an NFT of, I think, the map of Castlevania 1.
yep, they did for the 35th anniversary.
I have
So,
so
oh
many
god.
questions.
yeah.
I don't think their pachinko parlor or health club business is thriving terribly well right now for reasons that shouldn't be that hard to figure out.
Yeah, NFT culture is a bit different in Asia though. So I know certainly in
Maybe,
Thailand it's
yeah.
fairly big. And yeah, so I think that it's probably way more acceptable out there, but obviously Konami don't care. Basically, is what I'm saying. Like with Metal Gear, they do not care. So, and the other one as well, you know, the one that I won't mention, which is, you know, you get a new one anyway. It's fine, technically.
They
Like we
released an
did.
arcade collection with that had Gradius 1 and 2 on it
Oh, they did, didn't
a
they?
year or two ago, and that was that warmed the cockles of my heart that loves the opening theme song to Gradius 2. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Konami's not really interested in making new video games.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I would rather take the creative properties off of the people who worked on them rather than from direct from the corporation that funded them, if that makes sense. Like if, you know, like Igarashi made Bloodstained, I was more than happy with Bloodstained. Did it have Konami's involvement? No. Was it Castlevania? Yeah, it sure was, just under a
Yeah,
different name. I'd rather take that with the same people who put the time and the effort into it outside of a company name than anything, you know what I mean.
I just wish they would license these to even if not the original creators, just like good creators that want to do well by the
Yeah.
by the property. Like I love Metroidvania games, and I'm happy to play indie ones, but there's just something special about a proper Castlevania game with Belmont versus Dracula at the end.
Yeah.
That makes me a little sad. I mean, Corey, you haven't played a ton of Castlevania games, but at least more than you had a month ago, and you're interested in pursuing other Castlevania games. Like, but is it a little weird knowing that all the ones you can play are already out there?
I think the word I would use is sad because, like, I really like this one, but just, the future seems bleak. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but Konami doesn't seem inclined to, like, revitalize this series. So yeah, I mean, it weird and sad is how it makes me feel. I think there are so many different indie Metroidvanias that do look promising that I think I could live with it. Like, but I'm gonna get the itch scratch from somewhere else. But it's definitely unfortunate that like the best is sort of behind us, so to speak. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah, weird and sad, and not really much promise going forward. That is the current state of Castlevania, but the past of Castlevania is still pretty excellent because over the, I would say, 7 or 8 Metroidvanias of the 2000s and going back to the action games of the 80s and 90s, there's a lot of good Castlevania out there. And this might not be the last Castlevania episode of Retro Encounter, but I don't think we'll be reporting on a new Castlevania game anytime soon. But I do have one last thing I want to bring up. Alana, you know the in the floating garden area, there's that the door to the Chaos Realm.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, what's the monster right in front of that?
Oh goodness. Oh, it's like the kicker skeleton or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's a skeleton with a cape that drops a belt, and when you defeat it, you get a dive kick ability.
Oh,
That is a that's a common rider skeleton. It is a common. Igarashi put a Kamen Rider skeleton in this game in 2003, and I didn't start watching Kamen Rider for almost a decade later, but now I have found the Kamen Rider skeleton in Castlevania.
I looked at the belt description because I'd never got it before, and I was like, this is funny. I was like, let's log that for later. Totally forgot about it until you brought that up, and now I'm like,
yeah,
it makes sense now.
Every Kamen Rider is a Japanese superhero starting in 1971. All of them transform with the belt. All of them have a dive kick for their finishing move, and many of them have a scarf. So that is 100%. But that's something that Igarashi has in common with Hideo Kojima, love of Kamen Rider.
I was gonna say it's probably quite sad, isn't it? Because if that's Japan in like 2035, then that could be genuinely like an actor who played a Kamen Rider character.
Oh God, maybe. Oh, is that Hiroshi Fujioka's corpse that we defeat there? Segata Sanshiro himself. Those old Sega Saturn commercials are the original actor for Kamen Rider.
They are.
But anyway, okay. If I am talking about the career of the actor that played Kamen Rider in 1971, maybe we're near the end of the episode. We have the next 4 episodes of Retro Encounter planned out, but depending on who's available and when we can record them, I'm not sure what order they're happening in. But I can tell you what all 4 of them are. We are doing another adaptations episode in which we talk about. We do a little bit of hypotheticals and prognosticating about what existing works of fiction or other video games would make great RPGs, and basically just sort of fantasy booking different kinds of potential RPG adaptations. We did one adaptations episode in 2018 and another in 2020, so this is the 3rd in the trilogy, and that's coming later this month. Also later this month, we have a lot of people on RPG Fan staff excited about playing Pokemon Legends Arceus or Arceus. I don't care if it's supposed to be Arceus. I'm calling it Arceus. So Pokemon hype is high right now, and we are going to hold a Pokemon fantasy draft, kind of like our Elite Four episode from a couple of years ago. But we're basically, playing a dumb podcast game to talk about our favorite Pokemon characters and monsters. And Alana, you're going to join me for that one, right?
I am. Arceus is fantastic. So yeah, my Pokemon hype is really high right now, which it hasn't been for a very long time.
I want to play that thing, but I don't need another video game in my budget right now.
You will spend like 70 hours on it. I'm 45 hours in and I haven't beaten it. So
I definitely would. I would. I love the collection part of Pokemon.
That's what it is, and you collect multiples all the time. And I'm, Nikki sold it well on random a couple weeks ago.
I even like Gen 4 more than most people do, because Gen 4 was the game that got me back into Pokemon after taking a break for like 6 years.
There you go.
Yeah, I should play that, but it's not happening anytime soon. But one thing that is happening soon is that Pokemon Fantasy Draft sometime this month. Also, we are doing 2 other games as part of Metroidvania month. Cory, we alluded to both of them in this episode. One of them is going to be Super Metroid, which is about as non-RPG as you get on this podcast, except for the episodes called "This Is Not About RPGs." But that is one of the definitive and best Metroid games, and we have some Metroid appreciators that are going to talk all about it later this month. Also, Salt and Sanctuary, one of the games that is a bullet point in that indie Metroidvania movement of the 2010s that we talked about briefly. So please look forward to Adaptations 3, Pokemon Fantasy Draft, Super Metroid, and Salt and Sanctuary happening in this month in some order that I'm not 100% sure of the exactly yet. But it is the beginning of March, so we can talk about April episodes a little bit. We are recording 2 episodes on Final Fantasy 13 in April. That is one of the most glaring omissions in my RPG resume. I've never played more than 30 minutes of a Final Fantasy 13 game, and that is literally trying it at a friend's house when it was pretty new. But I do have copies of the whole trilogy that have been gathering dust on my shelves for years. So now I'm finally going to make a sincere attempt at the first Final Fantasy 13, and then I'm going to talk about it with some other panelists on podcasts for 2 episodes. So that's going to be something. But listeners, if you want to send us something, whether it's about Final Fantasy 13, Metroidvanias, Pokemon, or your favorite season of Kamen Rider, the best way is to email retro@rpgfan.com. You can also comment on RPG Fans message boards, Facebook page, check out our Discord, our YouTube channel, our Twitch, something streaming basically every night of the week on Twitch. And also, we have 3 other fine podcasts hosted by RPG Fan. There's Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness, Rhythm Encounter every 2 weeks about RPG music, and Phoenix Edge currently on hiatus, but hosted by Hat and Eric, usually recorded live on YouTube and mostly about current events. So you can review those podcasts or Retro Encounter on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, however you choose to do so. Please leave us feedback. We love feedback, but we love all of you for following along with us for an hour plus talking about the excellent Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. And thank you, Zach, Alana, and Cory, for joining me on this episode. It felt so good playing Castlevania Aria of Sorrow again that I knew I would want to talk about it with people, and I could not have asked for a better trio of partners for this podcast. So thank you, all 3 of you.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's good to revisit. I want to dust off my DS now and replay Dawn, so might end up doing that. Might end up throwing my stylus out the window. We'll see.
I have a couple styluses lying around, but I've lost so many that sometimes when I clean house, I find one like behind my nightstand or something. But my old bronze DSi has gotten some work over the years, and I think it might be time to bust that out again for some Dawn of Sorrow before too long. And after I finish them, I can maybe I can mail my DS games to Ohio or North Carolina to help spread the Castlevania gospel.
I wouldn't complain.
Nor would I.
All right. But listeners, that's the 4 of us. But how do you reach the 4 of us individually? Let's share our social media access, or not access. Let's share our social media accounts with the listeners, starting with you, Zach.
Well, no social media for me, but you can email me at zachw@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on Discord, the RPG Fans Discord at zachw.
Now, Cory.
You could email me at coryt@rpgfan.com, and I'm on Twitter as MOARCoffee88.
Now, Alana.
You can find me on Twitter at Alana Hagues or the RPG Fan Discord. I am Alana.
And listeners, you've heard me say this perhaps 200 times or more. I'm most easily found on Twitter at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs other times, and on RPG Fans Discord, I am Monsoon Mike. So listeners, I think that's about it for today. I need to start playing Salt and Sanctuary because I've heard that one gets pretty hairy, and I really hope I can finish it in time for when we record in a few weeks. Thank you. Good night. Good luck. Rider Henshin!